Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 347 of the Drunk Dashers podcast. I'm your host, as always. I'm Tyler, and joining me, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sir Colonel Gables. What's up, buddy?
Hey, well, that special time has come every decade now? But this whole game of the decade stuff from 2010 onwards to 2019.
Yes.
It's finally here, and I'm excited to share my list.
Yeah, same as these. Do you hate your list almost as much as I do?
To be perfectly honest with you, I don't necessarily hate my list, because all 10 games that I got on here are pretty fucking cool. But unlike our Games of the Generation podcast from last time, I am not going to go through 40 fucking honorable mentions. Because as soon as I hit the 10th one, all of a sudden I just heard groans. Like, oh god, here we go.
Is he going in alphabetical order? It's still in the B's.
Just you and Josh just listening on as I'm just doing like, okay, and there's Enslaved, and there's Batman, and there's Marvel vs. Capcom, and there's this. Now, bear in mind, people who are listening right now, I'm quoting a podcast episode that we recorded literally around the span of 2013, 2014. So
that is nuts to think we've been doing this over 6 years now on that podcast, which I remember that recording session vividly.
I know.
It was over 6 years ago.
I know. And the funniest part about it, this June is going to be our 7th year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, end of May. Yeah, early June. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's funny. We've done what, 6? We'll be doing our 7th. Oh no, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, so we've done 6 Game of the Year shows. We'll be doing our 7th one sometime here soon. We've done a Game of the Generation, and now we're doing our first ever, hopefully not last ever, Games of the Decade for the 2010s to 2019. So we have some rules in place. Obviously, the game had a release between 2010 and 2019, but also we're not going to let games that were just ported over. So a game that came out in 2008 was re-released on the PS4 or an Xbox in 2014. Is not going to fly. A game like Resident Evil 2 that came out this year, that's okay. That game will fly. But something like Majora's Mask 3DS, something like that's not going to be okay. It's got to be a full from the ground rebuild. Kind of a situation. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I think that's really our only rules we have for this. Any consoles, Switch games, Game Boy Advance, if those were still being made, games are allowed. DS games, there's no exclusions like that. Just had to be released within this decade for the first time. So before we jump into anything, you want to talk about, Gables?
Nope. Let's get this started.
Okay, so real quick, one thing. We're going to do 10 through 6. We'll go back. We always do it for people who listen to us, Game of the Year. We're going to go back and forth. 10. I'll do 10, then he'll do 10, then 9,
okay.
9, 8, 8. And then after 6, we'll do, if we have any, honorable mentions. I made a top 20 list, just for everybody knows, but I'll run through it. So do you want to start with number 10, or do you want me to start, Gables?
I'm gonna let you start, because I'm just raring to go.
Okay, so number 10 for me, and this is actually kind of one that was kind of shocked me when I was before we actually get that. What was your process of putting your list together? I do want to know that.
My process of putting my list together was I went through, and first off, I listed off the games that I remembered playing through the decade, but I went through to places like Wikipedia to check out the years of when games released, found a whole slew of games that I remembered playing, but at the same time, I did not remember a whole slew of when they actually released, and that's how I got a whole list of about 86 games just from just doing that. And so I went and built up my list upon those 86 that I initially got on there.
Yeah, that was kind of my thing too, where it's I wrote down all the ones, I kind of went with the mindset of okay, if I'm making a top 25 list, what would realistically be on there? Because I remember we did our game, we also did our 30 favorite games of all time list in 2015.
Yeah, we did.
Or 2016, something like that.
It was
And
2016. Yeah.
yeah, oh, it might be. Yeah, you're probably right. And I remember when I went through that, you and I both, we had like almost 100 games on our
Yep.
respective lists before we like finally.
Yep.
So I went in with that mindset. Okay, I can't just write down any game I really liked from over the decade because I'll be here all fucking night. So like I went through and like if I'm making a top 25 list, what games would I realistically argue could be in a top 25 list? And I ended up having like 43 or 44 games. So it was a little bit easier to knock it down to a top 10 list. In the end, a top 20 list, where I sat down, had those individual arguments, stuff like that. So this year was, and I didn't keep going back to it because there's been times like usually my game of the year list, I'll sit there like a few weeks before I'll even start putting the list together, and I'll sit there and go back. I'll end up spending 10-15 hours just staring at my list and fucking with it, having arguments in my head. I'll be sitting there at work thinking about it, sitting there like playing games. Ooh, I don't know, maybe the Spider-Man is better than Celeste, whatever that argument would be. And so this year I kind of just worked on the list, put it together, went back a couple times and tweaked it, but I didn't stare at it. I put the book away that I wrote all my notes in, and I left it in my drawer. And I went back and looked at it last night, and I kind of reconfigured it a little bit, and I haven't touched it since. So this is like the year I've put probably the least amount of time into it. And I hate my list, but I always hate my list every year because I always like feel like something's kind of quite right there. I hate the fact that this game should be higher, but it's like I can't put them higher than these games. So I don't know. Like I'm always gonna hate my list, but I don't hate it as much as the years past for compared to my other list. But all right,
I'll tell you one little quick thing though. Just a little blurb, a little knowledge and stuff. I was just looking over the games that I did put on my list. Out of all of these games, I think I have not beaten, at least about 3 of them.
Oh wow!
So a lot of the games that I got on my list right here, I have technically gone through and beat them.
Okay. I think of the ones you can beat, I've beaten every single one, and the one that I can't beat, I platinumed. So, because there's no beating the game. So yeah, I've beaten every single game on the list. Not that wasn't a rule or anything for me, but it's just how it ended up for me. But anyways, going on with number 10, one that I really didn't think would crack my top 10 list when I first wrote it down, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, this has to be in the top 10. So I put it at 10 because I feel like that was appropriate. Rocket League.
Rocket League.
Yeah. Wow. So I wrote down the years too when it came out. So Rocket League 2015. We've talked about it a million times. A PS Plus game that came out in the summer of 2015 and has really taken over. Because I think we're probably going to do a Game of the Generation podcast sometime in the next 12 to 18 months too, I'm assuming.
I kind of feel like that we will definitely be having another Games of the Generation podcast. This feels like we may just do that.
Yeah, and this game, like, realistically, like, could end up on a lot of people's, maybe not, I don't know how many people are going to do top 10 lists, but it's going to be on a lot of people's list. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot of people's number 1 game. And it's got a really good argument for being my number 1 game, because for a lot of people's. Because it helped the fact that we always talk about this was a PS Plus game, so instantly all of our friends had it, and especially back in the early days of the PS4 when there was in their early generation, there wasn't really a lot to play, especially multiplayer games outside of Battlefield and Call of Duty. Like this was like the fact that still just 2 months ago during Extra Life, I played this game again with a group full of people, like 4 years later, like. That's nuts to me. Like it's a stupid game where you drive a car and you play soccer with it. Like, but it's addictive. It's fun. It's exciting. And all these years later, after I don't even know how many, probably 100, 150 hours, like I still have a blast sitting down, having a few beers, and playing this game with my friends. And I look forward to it every year during Extra Life for sure. And even on random nights when we have a gamer night, and it's like, you guys want to play some fucking Rocket League? And we'll put on like Talking Ship Facebook page. Hey, we're playing Rocket League. Want to hop on? And we're like, people are like, hey, can I jump in? I'm like, we got a full party. And it's 4 years later. It's like it's still have that to this day. Like that's awesome.
Well, at least this day and stuff, we can actually go and have a room full of like 16 people as opposed to like the whole 12.
Yeah,
I think we had initially.
Yeah, we can have 8. We have 16 in a party, but we just can't only 8 can play in a game.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
God
but
bless.
at least we can bullshit and we can have multiple. Like, there's 10 of us. We can have 5 and 5 or whatever. But yeah. Number 10 for me, Rocket League. Great game. So what about you, Gables? What's your number 10?
My number 10 is a game that has been synonymous with gaming culture, but at the same time, it's one of those games where I frequently go back to, and I still have a blast just exploring every little bits of it and stuff, and that is the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, when that game first released, I mean, any and everybody was talking about it. I remember people distinctly when I was going through college, God, college professors talking about it, like fucking some of my friends talking about, oh man, Skyrim releases this day, on the 11/11/11. That's the big old day that we got going for it. And it's like, ever since then, I initially played through the PS3 version of it. I have it on Steam. I've played through a lot of that. I still have a fun time. Right now, I am playing through a little bit of a playthrough right now as a high elf. And I got like all my magic and all this other stuff, and I'm basically going through bits and pieces of it, which I really do want to just finish off this. Like, I just started my playthrough, but I'm still thinking of ways how I can improve my character and this and that. But that just really tells you how fun and how immersive this game world is. If like not even like 9 years, like we're like over like close to like its 9-year anniversary and stuff, and people are still playing it consecutively and regularly still to this day.
Yeah.
How much of an achievement it was for Bethesda to actually go through back when they were still putting out good content without sacrificing things to put out a game, even though it did have its problems for PS3. I firmly admit that. The whole memory stuff, if you had enough like gigabyte or whatever type big your save data was, it would delete or something on the PS3 or something if it was past a certain extent. But the game in of itself, the fun I've had with it, man, it's just something that I personally have not forgotten, even like so many years later. It was the tail end of the PS3, Xbox 360 game generation and stuff, and here I am, I'm playing Skyrim, just completing the quests, going just defeating Alduin and stuff like that, and just going to Valhalla and having that big old epic final battle and this and that. It's like, yeah, man, it's just so much fun elements were to be had. Especially exploring the landscapes and stuff, like just defeating all the dragons and like getting all the various like loot and plunder and stuff like that when you faced off against like random big giants, or taking care of like people from like the like secret organization or something like that that's like inside that game. It's just a blast. Ultimately it's like a friggin' blast, personally.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 10.
That's incredible too. Like the fact that it came out towards the end of last generation. Here you are at the end of this generation, and it's still being played a lot. Even like today, like I was on the Talk to Ship Facebook group, and people were like posted about like, do you guys still go back to this game? Talking about Skyrim, and a boatload of people were just like, yeah, like I just went back to this game, or every time I see a picture or a video or whatever, I go back to this game. And
yeah,
it's funny to think that almost 9 years later, here it is still probably one of the more played games this generation. But my number 9, this was honestly the hardest slot for me to fill. Because like Rocket League had to be in there for me, and there's probably been 5 or 6 other games in the slot that obviously I had to stick with one. And this one isn't here because it kind of, it's funny because like the last show we just did, I just kind of talked about burnout on this type of genre, but it kind of started. I don't want to say it didn't start this genre, but it was kind of like to a wide audience. It started one, and that's Walking Dead season 1 from Telltale from 2012. For me, like it opened up a whole new world to me of gaming where, like, yeah, I like story games to a certain extent. Like, I enjoyed them, but it's like, a story never drove me through a game like Walking Dead season 1 did. And I mean, it had its problems with, just like with Skyrim, where like, I remember midway through episode 3, my save was gone. So I had to replay the entire 3 episodes again to go back and play episodes 4 and 5. Like, but that's how much I love this game, where it's like I had to I was pissed off, but I was like, I went through it and I enjoyed it, and I replayed the game on this generation again on PS4, and I replayed season 2 right before season 3 came out a couple years ago, and still like this moment, and we're gonna spoil the shit out of a lot of these games because A lot of these games have been out for some up to 10 years now, but some have been out for multiple years. But like, still, like even a couple years ago when I replayed season 1 and the part where Lee died, like I was sitting there like snot bubbles, bawling like a goddamn baby. I knew it was coming, and saying to Clementine, keep your hair short, like I've always said before to her. Like that quote always got me, all these years later. So yeah, like it was a not only did it open the world, open up a whole new like gaming genre type to me, but it was still to this day one of the greatest stories ever told in gaming to me. So that's why it's my number 9, Walking Dead season 1. What about you, Gables?
My number 9 is going to be a bit of a surprise for people, but it is Mass Effect 2.
Oh shit! Okay.
So Mass Effect 2, what can I say? When the first game released, it took me a little bit of time to get used to it. I liked a lot of the RPG mechanics of the first game, but it really wasn't until the second game released that I started to get full swing into playing the game. Now, this is one of the very few games that I played last generation upon the 360 and the PlayStation 3, played them all the way through. So with it, there was a bunch of different things I liked about Mass Effect 2. It was more action-oriented, so wasn't like having a bunch of its heavy caveat stuff that the Mass Effect 1 had, where basically you controlled your party, you would go through, like in certain RPGs and stuff, where you would assign certain characters to go into attack certain things or to shoot certain things and double team. But there was a lot of slowness and a lot of clunkiness and stuff. I remember back in the day when I played the original Mass Effect, exploring certain bits of terrains and certain worlds and stuff inside of the Mako and stuff and doing this, but and just getting lost in stuff like randomly generated worlds that were just inserted there just because. But in Mass Effect 2, there was little of that. You had basically you could go through and like mine certain planets for minerals and this and other that, but a lot of the best stuff inside Mass Effect 2 was a mixture of its combat style, which was a fast-paced, a third-person shooter sort of thing, where you could have your soldier element, you could make your character be like more like biotic energies type of stuff, but the character conversations, the not escort missions, but like the loyalty missions, that's right. A lot of those loyalty missions I still remember to this day, and it's partially the reason why I have an Xbox One right now, is because I'm having a huge fucking craving to go back and playing games like Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2 especially, because those loyalty missions, alongside a lot of the characters that were involved from like Thane, from freaking like Kasumi, like oh man, let's see, Liara, oh god, Mordin, oh my god, Mordin, dude. It's just like even
when
like
you find the part where he
like
sings,
Rex.
oh my god,
and then like with Grunt and like all the other like various characters, like especially some of the mainstays like Garrus and like Tali and freaking Liara and stuff, where it's just a bunch of great memories inside of Mass Effect 2, surrounded by like a whole bunch of different stuff, and the whole thing with the Elusive Man, and all of a sudden, having some new characters, some new love interests, in terms of things like with Miranda and stuff like that, which I'll never forget that infamous scene. It's like the first time you're introduced to her, and all of a sudden you cut away, you see Commander Shepard, and you just get a big old full-on view of her ass. I'm like, oh, well.
Did Hideo Kojima make this game or something? What the hell's going on?
Well, it's like, welp, I know exactly how BioWare is going to sell this game. Anyway, long story short, the game in and of itself was so much of a good build-up and stuff. With the imminent like arrival of the Reapers and this and that, plus the whole stuff with the back and forth like renegade like nature of the Elusive Man wanting to go through against like say the Citadel's orders and this and that. But it's part of the reason why it's in my top 10. And it's because it had so much of a so much great elements to it that I remember still and that I still want to play through. And it was a real shame that we did not get any type of like remasters or anything of the sort of the original trilogy on the systems. I mean, I would love to play through from Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 on the PS4, on the Xbox One. I know it's late for that, and hopefully the next generation will have something of the sort, but those games are classics. They should not be missed upon. Hell, even though people have their caveats about Mass Effect 3 from back then, I understand the outlash, the backlash that was from that, but I still loved playing Mass Effect 3. It was my character that I had built all the way from Mass Effect 1, go through all those stories, all those issues, all those decisions that I made, all the way up to Mass Effect 3, and the climatic ending and stuff with, God, just great memories of the Mass Effect series from that second entry. And it's one of the few games, it is definitely one of the few games that I heard spoilers back in the day from Giant Bomb when they were doing their Game of the Year stuff. It was one of two games that I had spoiled for me that after hearing the spoilers, I went through and I played through that game because I know it was awesome.
Yeah. That's funny because that's what happened with me with Nier Automata, where like Giant Bomb spoiled the shit out of that game for me. I'm like, this sounds fantastic. And that's what propelled me to go play it.
So, yep, that was number 9 for me. Mass
Very
Effect
cool,
2.
man. Very cool. Number 8 is really the one game that kind of made 2014 not the worst year ever for gaming. And it was funny. It was the new consoles were out, but this game was a 360 game. And that is, well, a PS3 game as well, but I played on 360. That game is South Park Stick of Truth. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's one of those games where it's just like I didn't even like South Park's my favorite show, TV show of all time. Like I love that show. It's I've watched all the episodes a million times. I quote it daily. Like I've been watching them since I was a little child, 9-10 years old, and we've gotten multiple South Park games over the years, and they weren't very good. Even as a kid, the South Park 64 game, I recognized like this isn't a very good game. It was funny going into it. I remember the day the game came out, and I was sitting there at work and like coming up to it, I'm just like, I'm not buying that game. It's gonna be garbage. It's because it got delayed so many times, and it was like I think this one got passed through multiple developers, and I'm like, this game is gonna be garbage. It could be funny, but the game's not gonna be fun to play. Blah, blah, blah. And then the game came out and the reviews came out. And it was one of those things where the reviews didn't come out to the day the game came out. She's like, this game is definitely going to suck.
So it had all the signs that it possibly could have been a bad game.
Yeah. And then it comes out and like this, like 8s, 9s, 8s, 7.5s, 8s, 9s. And I'm like, I remember I went to like multiple stores to go buy copies. But it's like, everybody's like, yeah, like we didn't get a lot of pre-orders for this, but a lot of people came in today and bought it. So I'm like, there must have been a lot of people like me where it's just like that game didn't, there wasn't a lot of hype around it, like positive hype around it, and came out and reviews blew people away. And to play it, it was just like, it's something I've said about the game when it first came out. It's like the greatest hits of South Park. And for a hardcore fanboy, like there's like a lot, there's a lot of stuff. Like if you're a casual fan, all the funny stuff, like the big stuff they're famous for. Like you're gonna enjoy it. There's some stuff in there. But if you're a deep fan like me that gets a stupid quote from the 4th episode of season 3 that was never brought up again, like you're gonna love, there's stuff in there for you. And that's what made the difference for me from this game being like, it's funny because they quoted this thing that everybody quotes from South Park to like, here's this thing that like this stupid one line they made 15 years ago and they're bringing it back for this episode, and it's just and on top of that, like they hit the story was fantastic. The world felt great. Like they finally made a map of the world of South Park, or the town of South Park, I guess, and like it all made sense. And then like the game was actually fun to play, and there was actually like it wasn't like it wasn't XCOM deep, or it wasn't deep like any some other turn-based fighting games. But I mean, for like it was actually really well done and put together. Like it wasn't this stupid like, here's South Park game with some stupid mash them up, or here's some stupid like thrown together turn-based fighting game. Like there's actually like some strategy to it, and it wasn't like extremely hard unless you fought Al Gore too early on, and then he fucking destroyed you with his Excelsior attack, and then Manbear showed up. It was actually a well-made game. It wasn't just wasn't a well-made episode of South Park that was over 20 hours long. It was like a really fun game to play that I feel like even if you're not a big fan of South Park, you would enjoy that game.
I 100% agree, because that's an excellent game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I went replayed it a couple years ago when they re-released it for PS4, and it didn't really work well because it was just a port of the Steam game, and it was like it was kind of messed up a little bit. But I mean, I went through it, and I still enjoyed the fuck out of that game. And you went through and played it too, didn't you?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. My experience with the game is I absolutely loved playing through the Stick of Truth. I missed one Chimpokemon, and I was away from, like, actually unlocking the fucking platinum for that thing, and that kind of pissed me off as soon as that happened, because it was right before the final stage of that, the final, like, panel of that game, and I could not go back. I'm like, well, I saved right here. I'm missing one Pokemon, but, well, I'm going to go ahead and do that. But still, the game was fantastic. The stuff about it was really fun. I mean, the story elements of it, the whole aspects of like having different characters and stuff, the whole using Timmy as like a little ride and stuff to and from like little checkpoints and stuff, and then like going.
Forgot about Timmy.
All of a sudden, you just hear this Timmer. But then the parts, just the hell of a funny ass parts and stuff where towards the beginning of the game you had to fight like these neighbors of Kenny and stuff like that are inside of his thing, either garage or something like that, and they're cooking the fucking meth lab, and you had to go through and fight them.
Yes.
You had to fight the meth heads inside of the freaking the McCormick's, like a freaking garage and some shit. Oh, oh my gosh. That's great. Yeah. And man, that man bear pig freaking boss was no joke. I basically did that after the game because that was like one of the last major things I wanted to do. And yeah, man, I mean, he's no joke. Yeah. But what's kind of hilarious though was like just eliminating Al Gore with just fucking farts and stuff. You know, it was just amazing.
And what's crazy to me is like that game I hit the level cap on both times I played through it midway or a little more through the game, and I still did all the side quests. Like, even there was no reason for me to do them outside of like, well, there was no reason like game wise to do them, and I still went through and
I know, right?
That was the first game I ever 100%ed. Was
dude, the side quests were fucking fun in that game, especially the little minor ones like finding Jesus inside the church. Tee.
So stupid.
You just hear him just going. I know, right? You just hear him just like in the corner. All of a sudden, it's like you can hear he's laughing somewhere, and you have to move these lights and stuff in order to see his shadow and stuff. It's like, oh, you found me.
Or fighting the Mongolians.
Oh my God, the Mongolians up that tower and stuff,
God
and
damn
just
Mongolians.
And just talking to that the city walk guy and stuff like that. Just, oh, if you beat up their children, they think it's a bad town and they move away.
When you go to Canada, that's probably the greatest experience ever in gaming.
The Canada freaking, oh God, when you get to Canada for the first time in South Park Stick of Truth, it is torn directly out of a fucking like 8-bit like role-playing game from like the NES, where it's like it's basically the dire wolves and the dire bears and stuff like that. Those things are fucking hard as shit too.
Yeah, they weren't a joke.
Oh my gosh! And then when you get into a town, it just basically is a big old overworld, like a turn-based RPG. I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that game is it's fantastic. And that is why it is my number 8 game of the decade. What's yours, Gables?
All right. So number 8 for my game of the decade is Celeste.
Ooh, okay, gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
When it comes to games and stuff, there are quite a few that come along that kind of have a big of an initial impact for me. And Celeste, a couple of years ago, was just that game. Going through a lot of turbulent stuff inside the personal life stuff, and then all of a sudden have a chance to play a game that just feels so soothing, so relaxing, on top of like just breakneck platforming and doing this and that, plus going through and experiencing sort of like a character and stuff that I've never really have like played before, with the girl going through a lot of anxiety issues and a lot of like battles within herself. In terms of the process of that game, you're going through these levels that reflect how she feels inside, and it's like, it is deep philosophically, but at the same point you have these like warm cues or something like that. It's like, hey man, it's okay, let's go through, you can still rewind anytime you like, and it just basically made you feel more comfortable in playing the game itself. Never mind how hard a lot of the levels were, you could initially go through and just continue anytime you want. You had encouraging words praising you all the way through, in terms if you were like dying a lot and stuff, which this is the type of game, the hard breakneck 2D platformer, where you're going to die a lot because you're not going to know a lot of the various movements or how to accurately jump over things or this or that. And so Celeste is that type of platformer, which was actually my overall game of the year a few years ago.
Yeah,
because
last year.
of how
2018.
2018, yeah.
Yep.
It was my game of the year for 2018, and man, I still am firmly behind that game, 100% being like on the top of that list because it had so much of a good impact and so much of a good positive message, and it's definitely one of those games where you can go back and just replay and just have an absolute fun time with it, on top of just feeling a sense of relaxation, and peace of mind, in which that's the type of game that I really look for, in terms of just relaxing after a stressful day at work or a stressful day at home or whatever. You just got to play something that's going to take your mind off things, and that definitely did a good job of that. And in the grand scheme of things, that's one of those very few games that you get a chance to play in the span of like a decade where that had that much of an impact just directly from so much, But it's definitely one of those games where I want to go back to at some point and go through some of the other points of the levels. But Celeste.
Oh, I'm sorry, real quick though. They even released Chapter 9 for free DLC earlier this year, so another reason to go back.
Well, exactly the point. And it's one of those games which, no matter what system that I have, I want to download it onto that system and I want to play through because it's that good of a game.
Yeah.
But that's my number 8. Tyler, what's yours?
My number 7, maybe a bit of a shocker for a lot of people that have been listening to the show for a long time. It was my game of the year for 2015. So number 8 was my game of the year for 2014. This is my number 8, my game of the year for 2015, Metal Gear Solid 5. So
Metal Gear Solid 5 is your number 7.
Yes. So this is where it started getting real difficult for me. Gables.
Now I understand why you were having so much of like a freaking hard time.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like this is possibly like Kojima's best game ever made, but to me it's possibly one of the greatest games ever made to me. But it's also one of the most disappointing games ever made to me.
Oh my god.
Where it's like what game was it Justin with Breath of the Wild? Justin had that moment with Breath of the Wild, because I remember saying that to him, and like he's like, oh okay, but he didn't quite understand what I meant. I'm like, this game is fantastic, it's beautiful, it's perfect for what it is, but it's like it's not Metal Gear Solid, but it's great in a different way. And I remember we had that, he said that same thing about Breath of the Wild. I'm like, this is what I was talking about just 2 years earlier with Metal Gear. And it's like, and I hope a lot of people understand that, where like, you want your games that you love to grow and expand, but you also want them to be the same at the same time, and to find that balance, and Metal Gear Solid 5 didn't quite do that. And this game definitely deals with the fact that like Kojima wasn't allowed to finish it, because there was a few more missions that were like that weren't done, that like you can watch some of the cutscenes and stuff, and some of like the art they had written down for like what was supposed to be the final missions. But I mean, just from the way they like kind of turning from like where it was kind of a small corridor, like Metal Gear Solid 3 was a little more open, but it was still like, small little areas you're in, where Metal Gear Solid 5 turned into like a whole like multiple open worlds you can be around in and do actual like real side missions in, and also with the main game. It's fantastic. It's brilliant. It's possibly Kojima's greatest work. I still hate the fact that David Hayter wasn't the voice, because Kiefer Sutherland, I thought he didn't do a bad job. It's just that it felt like it was like definitely like they needed like him to do a lot more work, and like either Konami wouldn't pay for it, or he wouldn't go back and record more audio, so they kind of had to work around that or something. But like, I don't know, just going through it, and the way they changed it and evolved it, they made like it's such a big change from what Metal Gear Solid 4 was, and to change it into more of an open world game, and someone like me that doesn't really necessarily like open world games a lot much. If you look at a lot of my top 10 games of the year list, or games I rave and love, a good chunk of them are not I don't love them. Like there's definitely ones that there's always ones that kind of break through that barrier for me. But yeah, I love what they did with that and make the fact that the help that obviously Kojima made this game, much like Death Stranding. I'm playing through that game because Kojima made that game, but the way they kind of built that and tied everything together with Revolver Ocelot and with David Emmerich and his dad like escaping from Snake, and then with Liquid Snake. I almost forgot his name. With like how they found him and like he was a clone and shit like that, or he wasn't a clone, he's actually the son or whatever of Snake, and all that. Like it just like they did such a great job of like tying all of them together into this fantastically well made, fun, great game to play, and like a really great job making it stealth. Like they upgraded, like Kojima created the stealth genre and he brought it to like a whole new height in 2015, almost 20 years after he made that genre. And it was a great swan song, I think, for him with Konami. I wish we can wrap up. We were able to wrap it up better. But I thought, all in all, like one of the greatest games of all time to me, even though it's the most disappointing game of all time for me as well. Yeah, that's number 7. Metal Gear Solid 5. What about you, Gables?
Uncharted 4.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
Well, honestly, even before going through this list and stuff, even though I categorized things pretty much on the fly and stuff, how I felt about the stuff, it still was a long time for me to decide what my top 10 was in terms of that even beforehand. But for number 7, for Uncharted 4, man, I absolutely loved the culmination of Nathan Drake's story on top of the fast-paced action that I felt was best represented inside of this game. There's a main reason why this was one of my top games. As a matter of fact, I think it was my game of the year in terms of 2017.
2016, it was.
2016.
Yep.
Yes, you're correct. 2016. And there's a good reason for that, because everything about this game was fantastic in my regards. The whole cinematic experience, the gameplay was quick and fluid like an Uncharted fashion. There was a satisfying conclusion to the series surrounding like Nathan Drake and stuff and Elena, and like, they're having a child and stuff. And there was so much like a homage to Naughty Dog, like say with one of their first games, like Crash Bandicoot being playable inside of that, which that was just so hilarious, having the first level Uncharted and stuff being playable. No, the first level like Crash Bandicoot being playable in Uncharted. But yeah, just the initial setups and the scenes, you do the little stealth action stuff where you're infiltrating this hotel or something, and it's just you, your older brother and stuff, and Sully like just going through and just like all the fake out moments, like you think when Sully's dead, and it's like this and that, and you're outrunning like these bad guys and stuff on the fucking boat and stuff, and then like there's like scenes where you're thinking you're gonna be dead and this and that. And even though I haven't played the game a lot since 2016, I can tell you what, man, it's like just going through and playing the game and encountering the characters and stuff. It's like it was just a great time. I mean, I had a lot of fun with it. The final scenes, the final battle in that game, where you have to initially go through this big old like back and forth between you and like one of the main villain and stuff, and having that whole like nonchalant kind of time action event and stuff like that, it's like, oh gosh, it was a little bit frustrating at first, but knowing when to counter,
with the sword battle,
sword battle, that freaking sword battle was hard as hell, but at the same time it was so satisfying once you killed that son of a bitch. But Uncharted 4, the culmination of all the great things that series did before it, with the whole epic scenes, this and that, the story of Nathan Drake finally being at an end and stuff, and seeing all that, definitely feels like the same way when I first played Metal Gear Solid 4 back on the PlayStation 3 and stuff, and the culmination of the 3 games that preceded it, with the Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3, and it's like seeing a lot of the culmination of Solid Snake's story. It was just from that back then in 2008, I loved that. For Uncharted 4, I felt it was like on a different level because of how everything wrapped up so nicely in terms of the experience wise, you
Yeah.
know, and that's why I kind of felt like it was definitely one of the top 10 games I had played of the decade, because it's like it had that action movie type of experience that I have loved for years, and on top of that, it's like you got another higher echelon of like just a lot of higher echelon things in terms of exploring, collecting, and stuff, and the replayability of that game is pretty fucking cool. So it's definitely why it's my number 7 on my top 10 list of the games of the decade.
Yeah, it's possibly like the greatest conclusion to a story ever for a character and just a game
Yeah.
franchise. I would say, like,
Yeah, especially inside of a game, inside of an industry where they don't let characters or things just like conclude. They
yeah,
just keep on moving on to the next game and the next game.
yeah. It's like, I mean, some of them do them well, some don't. A lot don't. But yeah, I think like, I mean, we're saying this now, but then watch at E3, they're gonna announce Uncharted 5 for PS5 with Nathan Drake coming back, which we're grown about now. But when we see Nathan Drake walk out of the shadows and into the spotlight, we're like, yeah, we're gonna be pumped for it. But it could be well, but who knows? Probably won't happen because Last of Us 2
Watch
is
it
coming
be
up.
just watch it be his daughter with Nathan Drake nowhere in the site, nowhere in the scene.
You know what? I feel if they bring, I hope Uncharted's not dead, and they really set it up at the end of Uncharted 4 with his daughter, and I
Yep.
could see that like maybe like Nathan Drake takes the Sully role in like if they bring it
Makes
back,
sense, yeah.
and then have the daughter be the Nathan Drake. I'd be cool with that. I play the fuck out of that for sure. If it's Naughty Dog making it, hell yeah. Even like the side one they made, the next year it came out in 2017. Was really really well done, and
It was.
it was great. And also, fun fact, if you're listening to this in January, there is Uncharted Collection is the PS Plus game for this month. So
Yes.
I am definitely got like the itch to go back and play. I've had the itch lately to go back and play. Like I was like, oh man, Last of Us 2 is coming out soon. I kind of want to go back and replay that game. And
Yeah.
same thing with now Uncharted. I'm just like, ooh, I kind of want to go back and replay the Uncharted games again too. I'm kind of on this Naughty Dog kick right now. Where I'm just like, once I put aside these new games I have, those are the things that I'm probably, since I don't have anything to play until Doom, I think in March. I think that's that's probably what I'm doing for a little bit. So yeah. So what was that was your number 7, wasn't it?
Yep.
All right. God, this list gets harder, and I hate it more and more as I go. Number 6 was my game of the year, three in a row for the year of 2017. Probably the greatest year in the history of video games. The year that Breath of the Wild was the 7th best game of the year. So funny to me. Justin's like, you son of a bitch. Horizon Zero Dawn.
No surprise to me, actually.
Yeah, like I honestly like when I first brought this up to you about doing this list, I'm like, oh man, probably Horizon's gonna be top 3 for sure. And then I started writing shit down. I'm like, oh no, it's not. It's not. It's like I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna etch it in number 2 here.
Oh
No, number 3. Oh well, I guess number 4. All right, fine. All right, 6 is fine. But yeah, this is like, I mean, it's like I was just talking about with open world games, like with Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, I don't like a lot of them, but when they're done well, they're different. I like them a lot. Like, I love the world that they built in this game. Like, it's so crazy that people made Killzone made this game. Like, these guys that made these on rails first person shooters made this brilliant open world game. In fact, it came out 3 days before Breath of the Wild and the Switch launch. And a lot of people there's still a lot of love. Like, this is a game that should have been like come out and blown over by Breath of the Wild and the Switch. And the fact that, I mean, maybe a lot of it maybe it's just me personally, but even like I hear a lot of people like a lot of excitement for Horizon Zero Dawn 2. The fact that game didn't get buried is awesome. Just I love the story, the world they built with like these dinosaurs. It's like, because we played a million games where it's like it's older time, or it's a period piece, or it's like a Skyrim type game where there's dragons and stuff like that. And, like, it's not current day, or it's not past, but it's something different. But we've never played we played futuristic game where there's just robots everywhere, and it's like but you're in big cities and it's just, it's like just 2047 kind of shit. And this game is hundreds of years in the future, and like the world is still fucked. The world is apocalyptic, and you're like, what happened? And with all these like robotic dinosaur type creatures, and like going around, and like they took a lot from like stealth games like a Metal Gear Solid with like the bow and arrow, and like, or like a Tomb Raider. But like I adored this game, and like it was one of those weird like open world games where like the ones I really do like, where I didn't get like where it wasn't just like, oh man, here, like I just want to play through the main, like, or I want to just go off and do all this side shit for hours on end. And I did that, don't get me wrong, but like I remember at one point I got something happened in the main story where it got me, and I'm just like, I love this fucking story and I want to know what happens. And I just went on, like I did almost no story side shit because I just got hooked in that story. Like it's an actual open world game where, like most open world games you play, the main mission, the main story is whatever, but the fun of the game is just all the shit you do in the world, And this one is like, actually, this is a really well told story, and I want to know what goes on, and do all that, keep me going. You kept finding new beasts like to fight all through. I remember like I put like almost 50 hours in that game, and I remember like 40 something hours in, and I'm finding new creatures to fight that I've never seen before, and I'm like, okay. And like they all had their own strategies. Some of them were super easy to beat. Like some were like the deer, but then there was like the ones that are more like saber-toothed tigers. Like it was so awesome. Like finding like doing this and finding out the strategy how to beat all of these new robots. And then the DLC came out, and a lot of times you get the DLC for like the games, and they're kind of just like some little bullshit 5-6 hour thing if you're lucky kind of thing, and they usually aren't very good. And the Frozen Wilds came out, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I put another 20 something hours into that. Like I put, I don't know, a solid 70 hours or so into like when it's all said and done with the DLC, and I was not ready for it to be over when it was over. Like that's how much I love that game. And people are talking about like it might be a launch title for the PS5, and I'm like, oh god, like I'm getting chills right now.
Well,
thinking
what an
about
incentive that would be to buy the new PlayStation and all of a sudden have Horizon Zero Dawn 2 as a starting point.
Yeah, my worst case scenario is Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and Hellblade 2 are the respective launch titles for the new consoles, because I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do, Gables.
I could just see you right in the middle of freaking Walmart. All of a sudden, it's like not Walmart, but like see you right in the middle of like a freaking retailer going through. Your girlfriend's right beside you, and you're just looking past right there. It's like,
I'm gonna look at her. I'm like, can you Google how to play games while homeless? Because that's what's gonna happen. Because we're not paying rent this month, honey. But like we're gonna buy extension cords and an Xbox Series X and a PS5. Because that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So my number 6, Horizon Zero Dawn, 2017, is when it came out. So yeah. What about you, Gables?
The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
What? I thought this was your number 1. I really did. I thought this was 1. Gables, this is fantastic. You've seen the light. It's not number 1. It should be number. If it was number 7, it'd be even better. But go on.
Well, for you, yeah, probably.
It's funny. I'm sorry. Real quick though, it's funny that my game of the year for 2017 and your game of the year for 2017 are both number 6.
I know, right? It's so hilarious that way.
It's
Actually, like, I didn't think about that until right after you said that.
It's like when Metal Gear Solid 4 was both our number 4s on Game of the Generation.
Honestly, I had just forgotten about that, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. Go on.
But Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, this ties mostly within my experience when I first got my Nintendo Switch, because I had to wait a good solid month after release in order to try to find and track down that system, and then finally get that call. I was in the middle of playing Gears 2. I dropped playing Gears 2, and I fucking went to Walmart, and I got fucking my Nintendo Switch that I had saved my income tax money for, a memory card, and a copy of Breath of the Wild, and I spent a full month playing fucking Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and I enjoyed every fucking minute of it. The first time I powered on the game, got out of that temple, and my jaw dropped at how beautiful the fucking scenery looked. That was just one of those experiences that was my opening impression of Breath of the Wild. The second thing, that I remember most about this game is like that feeling of sense, like how people played the original Legend of Zelda, where they didn't know where to go or what to do and stuff. They had a brief things. Oh, hey, what happens if I go over there? And I started like experimenting, like try to get to that area over there, like where all these temples and stuff are at, or one of my first experiences is when I got off of that Skyloft thing for the first time after going through the tutorial portion of that and automatically being leveled by this fucking guardian or something like that basically shot me from across the map. I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then just like going through every time that music sounded and I saw one just running towards me, I fucking darted and I went through and I was just like, I was basically made it a priority. First thing I had to do is just go and try to find the central points to highlight the freaking map. And that's part of the awesomeness of playing through Breath of the Wild. And a lot of my joy was, even though this game was fucking hard as balls and stuff, the game was fucking, it did not hold your hand at all. You had to go through and manually explore everything. You didn't know what was going to be around every corner. It was like one of those type of Zelda experiences that we've hadn't had in quite a long time. At least not since like the whole feel of the original Legend of Zelda. And it's like, it was like a freaking open world game where you did not know where everything was at. You had to go through and experiment with stuff, collecting all sorts of various armor and things like that. And to my credit, I didn't know this until after you told me, after I beat this game, but you could theoretically use those freaking little Korok seeds or whatever the hell that you did in order to invest in inventory slots in my damn thing. And I did not do a single one of that. I had went the opposite direction before facing off against, before finding that dude that actually allows you to use that. Because if I would have stayed on the path, I would have met him. But no, me, being the ever so knucklehead that loves to explore, went and did everything else and just had to experiment with the encumbrance and everything else. I mean, hell, it was a tedious experience, but at least I used my weapons instead of having them sit for the whole entire duration of my fucking 80-hour playthrough. But, oh my gosh, the whole stuff with discovering the new villages, faced off with those Ashika, like Yaga clan assassination people, and then going through and faced off against Ganon, actually going through and traveling through his castle and all that stuff. That was hard as balls, but it was fucking fun as shit. Especially when you get those mechanical arrows and stuff, the last tenure of that game. And I literally had, at one point, a map that I was going through and trying to find those temples.
Oh, yeah.
Because, oh, man, not just that, but I have good memories of, like, those 4 separate temples and all those mechanical machines that you're supposed to have before you face off against Ganon.
Yeah.
Well, basically,
oh, fuck.
And this is, and what's kind of hilarious about that? I went and I faced the hardest one first.
Oh.
Before all of them, so I had the freaking Thunderblight Ganon as the first one, and then all of a sudden I go forth and I finish off his one, and I was just going simultaneously in the opposite direction than what you did, because that's exactly how much of a masochist I was playing this game, and it was just excellent. It was so fucking fun. It was quintessentially that type of Legend of Zelda experience that I've always wanted to have. But yet, when I think about it, it kind of makes me have sort of a post-traumatic stress disorder, like a PTSD sort of moment, because now if I go back to that game, and I'm going to play a new game eventually on it sooner or later, and I go through and I get that feel, all of a sudden I hear that dun 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 dun, and I'm just going to look over and it's like, oh no.
So good. Yes.
Oh my god, there's a guardian somewhere. Oh, do I have a wooden shield? Well, at least right now I can at least win. At the last moment, I could dodge it with, like, a 1. Here's the thing. I ended up finding out later, if you use that wooden shield just right, where that damn thing shoots a laser at you, you can actually reflect it back, but it's only a one-use thing, and you can actually destroy the damn thing. But, towards the end of the game, while I was just wasting those stupid guardians, just, like, going, oh, there's another one. Well, come back here, you son of a bitch. I'm going to take you out for the earlier game. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm just laying waste to about 10 or 15 fucking guardians of finding across the map.
That was the best feeling in the world. Yeah. When you got closer to Ganon's castle, and you're just like, I'm just going to fucking destroy all of you. And you do it. Oh, so good. I give that game a lot of shit. Mostly the troll, Justin. But, like, that game was really good. It's fantastic. It's really, I mean, people consider it like one of the greatest games of all time. Like, I ain't gonna argue with you at all because it's there. Like, there's a lot of things that frustrate me about the game. I don't like about that game, but yeah. It, like the parts that hit, and God damn, when you start doing the da-da-da-da, like, I just got like that fucking like nerd chill all the way down my spine. Because like I remember like Justin and I went and saw this Zelda concert like 2 years ago, year and a half ago, and they do the music, the key when you leave the temple for the first time, the resurrection temple, and my eyes immediately welted up, and there was these two girls next to me, and they just started, as soon as that hit, they started bawling their eyes out. And I'm just like,
oh Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. But man, like that was like, that game was the shit.
And believe it or not, this is only my number 6 on my list.
Yeah, that's nuts. And what's it's to this day, over 2 years later, what like I still love when I see people like retweet like crazy Breath of the Wild moments. Like they'll have like little 15, 20-second clips of like stupid shit they do, and I'm like, how did you figure? This is fucking nuts. How did the people figure this shit out? Like they shoot themselves all the way to the top of the map, like all the way in the sky, and like. Or shoot themselves like with like 3 moves all the way from one end of the map to the other. Like that's blows my mind. That like
I
to
know
this
people
day,
are still finding awesome things to this game, and it's almost gaining upon like the 6.5 mark.
3 years later,
for that game. Yeah, almost 3 years later, man. Since that game released, and people are still finding fun stuff to do in it.
Yeah, March 3rd will be 3 years.
Oh yeah,
it's crazy to think. The second best game that come out that week, other than February 28th when Horizon Zero Dawn came out.
I know, right? Kind of funny how during that same time, it's like you had yours in terms of Horizon Zero Dawn, your number 1 for that year, and my number 1 for that year, Breath of the Wild, about a week from each other, and we both finished it on the same day, which was my birthday.
That was right. I remember that. It's fucking awesome. We beat it.
I get this fucking like random tweet from you. It's like, hey, look, man, I think I may have just about beat this game, and I beat it like an hour before you did.
I posted it when they go to the end, and I'm like, I finally beat Breath of the Wild. And you're like, yeah, I just beat it like 45 minutes ago. I'm like, are you fucking serious, dude? And then what was it, Mike Sutton from Talking Ship? He's like, I swear you guys are the same person. So stupid. Oh, that was great. That was fucking funny.
Oh my god,
that's funny. That's great. I love it.
I forgot Mike said that. That was actually amazing.
Yeah, I remember like way in advance. I bought because I got the Switch the day it came out, and I remember I took the Monday after, because it came out on Friday. I took the Monday after the Switch came out because I had to work that Saturday, and I was pissed.
Yep.
But I'm like, I'm gonna sit at home because I was working like 70-something hours a week that time. I'm like, I'm gonna sit at home. I'm going to play the fucking Switch all goddamn day. And I ended up instead just playing fucking Horizon Zero Dawn for like 14 hours. Yeah, but that was just it popped in my head. It's funny going back, reminiscing, like all these things pop in your head. And like, that was a crazy fucking week, Gables. That was a crazy week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, that was awesome. Okay, so we've both done our top 10, or top 6 through 10, respectively. So at this point, I'm going to run through real fast for a quick reminder. Quick reminder. We'll do our 10 through 6. I'm going to run through real fast. So Gables, for your 10 through 6, you had 10 was Skyrim from 2011. 9 was 2010's Mass Effect 2. 8 was 2018's Celeste. 7 was 2016's Uncharted 4. And 6 was 2017's Breath of the Wild. My number 10 was 2015's Rocket League. 9 was 2012's Walking Dead Telltale Season 1. 8 was 2014's South Park Stick of Truth. 7 was 2015 Metal Gear Solid 5. And 6 was 2017's Horizon Zero Dawn. Hey guys, this is Tyler. So thank you guys so much for listening to us on part 1 of our Game of the Decade show. Really appreciate you guys doing that. We will be back next week with part 2, going through our honorable mentions, and then also 5 through 1. So thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week.